Hey, Dad, welcome to the Father on Purpose podcast. And as Lawson and I occasionally do, we invite a high-powered, talented, has all the answers kind of guest on the show. And today, that guy couldn't show up. So instead of him,
Yeah, good.
Just kidding.
I didn't see that one coming. Good one.
We love to have guests on the show, especially guys that we know, guys that we trust, and guys whose content you will be blessed by. And today, for sure, that is who we have on. His name is Jeff Zaugg. He leads a ministry called Dad Awesome. And before I describe his book to you and welcome him to the show officially, let me remind you of two things. Number one, today's show is brought to you by Range Leather. Go to rangeleather.com and use the code MJ15 and get 15% off your very next order of a pair of earrings for your wife or a wallet for yourself or some other leather tool or implement, such as their brand new gigantic Bighorn Weekender bag. It's amazing. Go to rangeleather.com and support such a cool business. We love Kyle and the team out there in Laramie, Wyoming. Secondly, this show doesn't get produced for free. As Jeff knows, he runs a podcast. So go to manhoodjourney.org/guard, GUARD, and consider joining our monthly donor group right at just about to bump into 100 monthly donors. Sign up now and support this podcast so we can keep bringing you high-powered and biblical interviews like the one we're about to have with our good friend, Jeff Zaugg. Jeff, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Kent. And your voice is in my ear because we were voice texting. Well, we had several calls as well, but there's so many steps in the last, call it 9 months, that I'm like, I need help. Kent, can you help me? And you were so kind. So thanks for having me on today.
Nice. Oh, get out of here. It's a pleasure. Real quick, Jeff, before we dive into the book, it's called Dad Awesome. No surprise there. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions about the book. Before we do, get us updated. You were on the show a little over a year ago. Tell us about your family and what's going on in the life of the Zauggs right now.
Sure. Yeah. So my favorite person in the world is my wife, Michelle, and we are celebrating 20 years of marriage this summer. So we're gearing up. I actually don't have the whole thing planned out yet. So pray for me. I'm going to plan an epic adventure is the goal for 20 years. We have four daughters, aged 12 down to 4 is our youngest. And we relocated out of 3 years of travel in the RV, 3 laps around the country with the ministry, Dad Awesome. But we relocated to Northeast Florida, and this is home now for 2 years. We've lived here near the coast, and we love surfing together. My girls love dancing and theater, and they also love getting muddy obstacle course racing. So in a week here, we have the Spartan race in Jacksonville. Yeah. We're going to take it on. So we have all kinds of rope swings and climbing ropes in our backyard, getting ready for that. And we're grateful. grateful for this chapter.
Cool. Oh, how did you get them into Spartan?
Yeah, so for the ministry, we did these activation events all over, and we started doing Spartans maybe 4 years ago. And that first year, my youngest was too young. Actually, last year, my youngest was 3, and they require you to be 4 years old. And she's like, Dad, can you please just change my birth date so I can register? And I said, nice. You know what? This is one of those lack of integrity areas that I'll just go for. So I changed it. So they're funny. Into it. They're totally into it. And my oldest has won the last 2 years. So there's a little bit of pressure. She's coming in her 3rd year. She's won it a couple times for her division.
That is super cool.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah.
Hey, on behalf of the Manhood Journey Board of Directors and our legal team, I just want to reinforce, we do not endorse misrepresenting people's birthdays and lying on federal documents. So we just want to make sure his name is Jeff Zaugg. That's Zaugg, and you can find him in Florida if you're looking for him. Hey, Jeff, so before we dive in, I want to go back. How many podcast episodes have you done on your show?
Yeah, 423 this week, I think, is the 423rd.
Right on. Good for you. Man.
I'm thinking of one in particular that is probably your favorite. I think it was episode number 345. Do you remember that one?
I do. It was deeply impactful. Kent Evans, the guest.
I can't believe it.
He brings it.
That's ridiculous. I thought I was going to totally stump you, but you just know that I have an ego problem. And so you just guessed that was probably the one, right?
No, it's an unforgettable conversation. I'm unforgettable of the 8+ years.
Real.
Yeah, that was it.
Get real. That's ridiculous. Hey, thanks for coming on today. Do me a favor. Start us off with your new book called Dad Awesome, which is releasing about the time this show comes out. Dad, if you're listening and you go to Amazon and it's pre-ordered, go pre-order it now. but when this show drops, it may already be out and rolling. So I'm not sure where you'll catch the ordering process. Tell us about the architecture of the book, because it's architected around 6 key discoveries that you made through these hundreds of interviews. Do you mind walking us through maybe one or all 6 of those discoveries?
Sure. Yeah, we found in all these years of travel and campfire conversations and these events all over and all my podcast interviews, we found a lot of dads aren't readers. They don't see themselves as this is a channel of learning, discovery, curiosity, reading books. So I wrote this book with a team of friends. We actually do coaching cohorts where we take about 10 dads at a time through these 6 core discoveries. So we've had a chance for 2.5 years to practice taking guys through this 6-week sprint of unpacking these. And as we've done that, we've realized story driven, man, we have so much content coming at us. So there's a story, kind of an unexpected story with every chapter. Then there's a principle, something I've learned that's been stacked. So all these podcast conversations, I've looked for what are the core discoveries that have been stacked over time. So we deliver one of those, and then every chapter leads to activation. Like, how do you put this? What are some experiments we can run? And they're all like 7-8 minute reads. And in fact, we've designed it for the dad who says, I'm not going to read the entire book, but I'll chip away at it. So you could show up for a conversation with some other dads after reading one chapter in a section. So we're grateful. The kind of high level, though, 6 core discoveries. Story is the first one. Zoom out. As a dad, the current chapter is not the whole story. We're living in, and we can grab onto strength from what's happened in the past, victory, success, anchored moments of God's faithfulness. We can look back through all of the Bible, these like anchor back to promises, and then we can look forward with vision to the future. And a dad who brings their full heart is never going to just lean into the current chapter. They're always going to have vision for the future. So we're trying to get dads to zoom out. The second one's identity. It's all around receiving God's love before you try to show up as a loving father. And there's a lot to that. And I got that wrong. The majority of my life, identity, that's huge. The third is intentionality. Everyone thinks dad awesome is you're all about being an intentional dad. And we just think it's short-sighted trying to muscle intentionality and grind new principles of let's do this, new disciplines. Intentionality is important, and there's key areas of curiosity and watchfulness, and there's some other key areas. But overall, the biggest area of intentionality is, do you hear the voice of God? Are you hearing his guidance? Are you taking steps that he's guiding you into? And if you have that figured out, the other areas of intentionality will follow. Freedom is the fourth one. We use the grenade metaphor of you will hand your kids a grenade and it will go off and shrapnel will cause them deep pain decades into the future if we don't move into God's healing, God's forgiveness, a movement towards wholeness that God has for us, living in the light versus hiding things. And the dad who's hiding things, oh my goodness, the burdens. So we believe and we dream about dads walking in freedom, and not freedom like the world says, freedom of do whatever you want, freedom like biblical freedom, as you guys know this. And then we move into wonder is the fifth discovery. Fatherhood is a gift. We treasure fatherhood. Our kids can tell if we see it with wonder. There's a multiplication of wonder that the creator of the universe, God's put into dads to carry to their kids. And then leadership is the last one. And we believe dads, we take leadership of ourselves, we lead our families, and we don't stop there. We actually move beyond the walls of our home and we take leadership and we spark change in our community, in our friendship circle, in our churches. And us dads don't listen to the whisper of, you're not good enough to lead. You're not good enough. Look what you did with your kids last week. Look at the anger that you brought. No, we actually silence that lie with the love of God, and we lead, and then we help other dads, and we spark change. So that's the flyover of the 6 discoveries.
Hey, I've often thought, and your book hits on it, I think really well with a unique way of addressing, we're all dads are busy. We've got the world coming at us, telling us we're not doing enough. We are hit up with all kinds of things that are outside of our core priorities, maybe, and they're pull us away if we're not careful. There's these distractions in some cases that feel and seem like healthy, smart, good for us, good for the family. And sometimes they can either be like on purpose, cleverly disguised, as things that are helpful, and other times they're, I don't know, I'm just being lazy, and checking out and being distracted. But you wrap it up in this cool way of thinking about the invisible riptide. Um, and the reason it struck me because right before Christmas, I went swimming. We live near the Gulf and went swimming, and it wasn't bad at all. It wasn't like some, like the story you tell in the book. Um, but so it was mild, but it was enough that it scared me.
Mm,
Got caught in the riptide, and if you know anything about it, what you're supposed to do is just kind of let it take you, and then you drift off and can find that calmer water. But it was interesting how you wrapped up. You said there's a current of constant distraction pulling us away from meaningful connection, the undertow
mm.
of misplaced priorities dragging us toward what doesn't matter. Why did you include this particular image? And what do you think dads struggle with? And what are some practical ways, that you would say, here's what you can do to watch out for it
Yeah.
and maybe change it?
Yeah, great question. I do think that back to that comment about hearing God's voice, we can see in ourselves, we can actually press in with love for our families, and we can press in and find ourselves pursuing just these periphery, like these things that matter, kind of, but they're not the core thing. And all of a sudden, and it's just like a riptide. All of a sudden, we've missed core moments to pursue the hearts of our kids, core moments to step into this treasured role, and it's wild. Without friends, without my wife, without the Holy Spirit, without I actually can find my. And just last week, I was surfing and my leash broke, so I lost my board and I was in a riptide. So another fresh story of a riptide. And this was in El Salvador actually, and I was swimming hard this way and I was moving that way, and I just see that
Mm.
visual of
Yeah.
dads. We're swimming hard, we're giving our all. We're like, we're working hard. We're learning. We're growing. We're putting emphasis. But it's actually we've almost, it's the metaphor of the ladder against the wrong wall, and
Mm.
the world is saying way to
Yeah.
go, and the short term results are actually feeding into keep going, keep going, keep going, because we're seeing short term wins, but the long term. So the gardening metaphor. So I'm jumped to three metaphors in one answer. The gardening metaphor. We plant seeds. We plant seeds, and it looks and it smells like manure, and like nothing's growing. And as dads, these current chapters, keep planting seeds, keep watering, keep protecting the
Yeah.
garden, keep
Mm.
putting the fencing up to protect because long term we know this is the most important thing, and I always add to that most important thing, our marriage. Tend to that marriage, guard that marriage, and then what flows from it, these precious children, these gifts from God in heaven. And so that the riptide metaphor, it's like we need God's word, we need our friends, we need our family to remember it's long-term results, long-term impact. Keep in that story in Australia, I had to grab onto a rock, and actually I was
Yeah.
cut in the insides of my knees and my elbows, and I took wave after wave, but I wasn't going to keep going where the current was pulling me. And dads, you listening, you are not going with the current. You're listening to this show today. So like, I'm like
Right
cheering
on.
for you. You're
Yeah.
choosing not
Yeah.
to go with the current. So
Well,
well
and
done.
to summarize, if you find yourself with a garden full of manure and a ladder against the wrong wall, caught in a riptide, if you happen to find yourself in that scenario, man, you're in deep trouble. I mean, just take the ladder and
Yeah.
no, Jeff.
And
Amazing.
I love it because you teach with metaphor, and so did
yeah,
Jesus. Like
it
that's how Jesus
sticks.
taught over and
Yeah.
over. And a lot of guys need to think concretely. They need word pictures, and they need ways to process this information that's not just abstract language. So, bro, thanks for going there. Those metaphors are all spot on. Love it.
And you said something in there about, had you had someone with you, I think you were with your mom and your sister and they were snorkeling around, but like if you had, like, hey, let's you and I go out farther, not just you, Jeff, going by all alone. If you had somebody with you, you use that as like also a metaphor of we need guys in our life. we talk about that a lot on the show is, you know, going alone, the distractions come and you may not spot them until potentially a little late. Late meaning, you know, you've done some damage, not too late for a
Yeah.
turnaround. Um,
Yeah.
Talk about the importance that you highlight in your ministry and the book of let's not go alone. Let's do this
Mm.
with other men in our life.
Yeah, my intent, I have new intent every morning, new ideas to implement for my family, for my marriage, for our community, for the ministry. Intent comes all day long. And my mind sometimes tricks me to thinking I've accomplished something because I have some intent, or I put it in an Evernote file, in my notes file, or like I've bought a web domain. I've done that before too. It's all still in the category of intent. It's all intent. And when I started Dad Awesome, episode number 1, over 8 years ago, I had intent. I spent a whole airplane flight home, ideas, 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 ideas. And then I sent that first email to 30 friends. 30
Mm.
Mhm.
friends. And I was not on social media that year. I was just like, would you guys want to do a 10-week experiment? I'll bring content each week. And I called it Dad Awesome, this little experiment. And that those friends are the mechanism to keep
Yeah,
me growing, to keep me following through, because I don't like to let people down. And our whole ministry, the podcast has been a mechanism for me to stay hungry for new wisdom. Another conversation,
same.
another conversation.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah, I love that.
activation events. We're doing a Spartan event here in 9 days, and I've got 11 guys on my team. It's a smaller team, but I have a accountability loop to keep growing physically, to do pull-ups, to keep running. So to me, every area I want to grow, I have to find a few friends outside the walls of my home. I really do need not just my wife, not just my kids to be that accountability loop. So I'm always building, and I describe friendship is you don't find them. You
You
build
build
them,
them.
and
Mhm.
Mm.
building
Love
takes
it.
time,
Takes
and you
time
may
and
not
work
even
and effort.
have it. Oh, and disappointment. It's all like it's worth it though. So I use the experiment language all the time, like run an experiment. Find a
Mm.
challenge, invite some guys into this many weeks of let's do this. And sometimes it's working out together first, or it's playing. I've got a guy, we're meeting to go surfing later today. And I'm going, it's cold water right now, but I'm going because I've texted him and I've got that loop. And now I've got a friend to go do it with me. So all these things, building friendship, there will be a time, all of us, within the next 2 years, every dad listening will hit a crisis moment in the next 2 years. And if you haven't been building beforehand, then it's hard to reach to people when you're in the valley, in the crisis.
Yeah.
So that's serve together, play together, learn together, grow together. The whole design of DA plus 3, Dad Awesome plus 3. Everything in the book is designed to just 3 other dads. It doesn't take massive leadership skills to loop in 3 other dads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that, dude. And I really gotta I dig the book because I don't know, just it like you talk about doing hard things, about, you know, being out in the wilderness, about going out and surfing and being in, you know, uncomfortable. I'm reading this book called The Crisis Comfort.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a faith-driven book, but it does reveal some things that if I could talk to the author, I'd be like, I mean, yeah, science proved that, but you know where it came from, right? You know the
That's it.
origin of
That's
that.
it.
But it's interesting, and it does talk about doing some hard things as like it builds strength of bond. And so yeah, I know you talk about it, but I want to double down on one thing real quick before I, you know, move on. In the book, you talk about grenades, and you mentioned it in the opening, um, and the importance of like we're gonna do damage, but having someone there with you, like another dad, or like you're talking about these, you know, plus three, and you say healing doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in community, and that's post some damage that you've done. You know, you went off on your little girl because of something you had going on, and she just triggered it, and you need to go back around and fix that as best you can, but also like share that and learn from it. Um, the other reason I really dig your book is because these stories have reminded me of things. You in the chapter about grenades, relevant or not, you be the judge, but use it if you can. In the Marine Corps, when you go to the grenade range, there is a person in the pit with you. That's that person's job. Like we're learning, you're handed your 2 grenades, one straps on, one you're holding, you walk down, you stand in the pit, you've practiced this with dummies, um, dummy grenades, Kent, okay?
I
Now
wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't
I
going to say
know.
anything about you disparaging your colleagues, but continue,
Right.
continue.
But the reason that that person is there is because if something were to happen, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. And you go through the steps, you pull the pin, you let the I forget the name, the clicker, and then you overhand over the wall and he gets you down. But if something you mishandle it, like we do in life, and that grenade drops, that guy's one job is not to pick it up or do anything. It is to grab you and both of you fall out into the deeper area of the pit so that with that when that thing goes off, he has taken you and shoved you down and
Wow.
protected you. And I get this analogy of like that's what guys can do in our life and that's what we can do in the lives of others, but you gotta have that relationship depth. You gotta be ready, and you've gotta have some group. It's too late to build. You can't drop the grenade in the pit and then yell for
Go
help.
find the
Too
guy,
late.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you, and why did you choose the grenade, like, thought process?
Yeah. So there's so many layers to my own journey as a son, from my dad and from my wife's dad, of things that happen that cause shrapnel that I just found in my dad as a young father. I'm feeling the pain. I'm feeling the wound. I'm feeling the this hasn't been full, it hasn't been healed yet. There's repercussions. And so the shrapnel came from my own story, is how
Mm,
why I use that. But when you brought up that in the pit training exercise around grenade handling, I'm thinking about a whisper. There's a whisper that Satan wants to bring over and over to men on you're not enough. You haven't done enough. Look what you've done. You're an imposter. You're a failure. It's all these whispers. And even speaking them right now, I'm like speaking them while praying in my heart. No, that's not true.
That's
That
not
is
true, right?
not
Yeah.
true. That is not true. I'm a loved son of God and under his grace, within his inheritance. And he thinks this and this and this. But these are whispers that are real. And if I make a mistake and go and apologize to one of my daughters, I actually get the blessing of a closer relationship with that daughter when I
Yeah.
apologize. My other daughters are watching, and I actually increase the softness, tenderness, love with them. Double blessing. My wife thinks I'm more attractive when I go and apologize and when I'm humble to my girls. So triple blessing. Okay. Then God in heaven is like, he doesn't love me more, but he's glorified by a humble
Yeah.
heart
mm,
turning to my daughters
Nice.
versus staying this way. 4 times, just that apology. Now, if I can do all those things and still have some whispers, but if my friend knew, I lead a dad group, what if the guys in my dad group knew what I did? And I can still keep a little bit of posturing versus being real to these other dads. I actually think the throwing me down and covering me in the lower section of that pit with grenade practice, I think that kills the whisper. It kills the
Mm.
discouragement, the shame. When your brother says, when you go and tell somebody else, they actually now, the ability to avoid shrapnel and to build forward versus go back into that same pattern 6 weeks from now, 6 days from now to go do the same harm to my
mhm,
little girls. I actually think the brotherhood is a little bit the antidote to going back
Mm.
to the old ways.
Yeah.
Within the walls of my home, there's healing, there's 4 times blessing. But man, if we can silence the whisper and level up to through transparency and my like, hey, I missed it. Now my brothers are. And then that's a small example of like hurting the hearts of one of my girls. There could be bigger things that you're living in darkness and in
Mm.
shame that like, man, get thrown into the lower section of the pit, get the shrapnel from lodging
Yeah.
anywhere in me so
yeah.
that I can take ground and move forward. And so I love that. I love that. It's so right on.
Yeah, and I know you've got one teed up, but in on page 153, you say our kids directly benefit from having a dad who's built a team of brothers. They experience the security that comes when their dad isn't carrying the weight of fatherhood alone. Dude, that really spoke to me.
It is so good, man. I want to double back, Jeff, to one of the 6 things that you mentioned as the discoveries. Lawson and I did a series a few months ago, and then I'm currently working on a project connected to identity. Um, and for me, as you discuss this idea of whispers and lies that the enemy tries to lay into our minds and our hearts, would you just talk a little bit? And you can share maybe somebody you interviewed who really had it figured out, or what you've learned as a son or a dad or a husband. If someone woke you up out of a dead sleep and said, Jeff, you got an hour to talk, and the topic is identity, where would you start with the topic of identity? Because I see so many guys in what I do who just are battling this idea of who they really are at their core. Talk to us a little bit about identity.
Yeah, my heart is exhausted thinking about how I used to live. My heart, the
How
weight
so?
I
What do you
used
mean?
to carry. Yeah, the
Yeah.
weight I used to carry of trying to prove it, earn it, um, justify it, position to get something that I don't have, and I was doing that in all aspects of life. It really started with my dad keeping stats at every basketball game. He brought a little clipboard, kept stats, and I would either get silence on the drive home. If the clipboard showed that I played poorly, I would get silence from my dad.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he wasn't a part of the coaching staff. He's just sitting this was his way of supporting me on the basketball court, was his clipboard. Now, most games, call it 7 out of 10. I got specific affirmation, encouragement. Look what the stats, look what your shooting percentage, your steals, assists, rebound, like they show that you are valuable. You are crushing it out there. And it does, like, he had all this evidence of proof that I deserve love. Now, that mindset caused me to serve more. It caused me to work hard at my guitar chords so I could lead worship, and it caused me to want to speak well. It caused me to want to pursue even like dating relationships, like to try to earn, and I can do better. I can do better. My employment jobs of like I can earn. And that employee or servant-based mindset is what the prodigal son had when he was walking back to the father from the pig pen. He's like, maybe he will take me on as one of his hired hands. And that's the hope that most dads
Mhm.
wake up with. Most of us, most of my life, I wake up, maybe he will take me on as a hired hand. Maybe he will give me some scraps from his table. And God's heart, the heart of the father, is a spotting from a long way off, a running,
Yeah.
a wrapping a robe, a putting a ring, a butchering the biggest, was it a pig? Butchered something, a cow. And he, like, it was a party. Not from what he did, but because of his identity as a loved son. And it's
Yeah.
on my arm. The Greek of Romans chapter 8, verse 15 is on my arm of,
Yeah.
I am no longer under the spirit of slavery to fear. How much of us as dads are we listening to a whisper of a
Yeah.
slavery to the spirit of fear? Like, I'm just like, what if I'm not enough? What if I'm not enough? What if I fail? What if I, but the second half of the verse is, I am adopted as a loved son of God. That's my
Man.
identity. It's your
So
identity. I'm
so
adopted.
so
Mm.
now do your
Mm.
wife and 4 daughters walk around with clipboards? Are they like walking around and they're like, today on Tuesday, Dad didn't,
So that's where I was headed. No, that's where I was headed. So to finish the story briefly, there a prayer moment a decade later with a couple prayer counselors, and I love biblical based counseling, people who will pray into our story. I had this truth statement jump into my heart. And the truth statement is, my heavenly Father has set the scoreboard to infinity. Infinity. Our logo at Dad Awesome has the infinity sign in it. DA. It looks like an infinity sign. Like, he set the scoreboard to infinity. Okay, you can't add to it, can't subtract from it. And so that lie I believed all those years. So since then, I dance more, laugh more, cry more. I wrestle more. I sing more. I show up in a room differently. Like, I'm a different dad because I know my identity. It's so freeing. I'm not carrying the weight. There's so much weight to trying to earn it. And I actually carry a pocket knife that's a reminder, your heavenly Father is still fathering you. My heavenly Father is still fathering me. He's fathering me. I don't have to have arrived and have all the skills. And this book launch, I could stumble this book launch and miss miss some things and or stumble today's conversation. I'm not earning anything. I
Mm.
am showing up with the love of the Father. And dads, this is explosive in the best kind of way into your families. If you experience the love of the Father and you're not trying to get back up and earn and prove and posture. And so, yes, identity
Well,
is huge.
so one thing you remind me of is they said about Peter Drucker, the old business guru, that he would come into a new business and say, "Hey, my job is to walk in and just ask the dumb questions." And part of the reason he could do that is because he already knew he was great at what he did. Like he didn't have to show up and prove anything to anybody. So he could walk in and just ask really blatant questions. And that's one of the things that I have so admired about you, Jeff, the last year and a half as I've known you. Two things. One, you do not when I'm been with you personally, you don't strike me as the guy who feels insecure and as if he's needing to prove anything. You're willing to connect guys and ask not the dumb question, but like the blatant question. You're willing just to throw it out there because you're starting the game at infinity. Like you're not trying to score points with the guys around you. And that's just
Mm.
been my observation about you personally as a new friend in my life and as a ministry leader who I admire a ton. It's been fascinating to watch that because clearly that's how you operate today.
Thank you. And I received that.
Well, it's deserved. It's earned, man. Like not earned in a way like you had to earn it, but like that's. I think everybody would agree. Guys who know you would all agree. So take us through. Take us through. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about. One was identity. Thank you for that. Secondly, I think a lot of guys will be able to understand leadership. Like in other words, the word. There may be some nuance, of course. That one struck me as like you kind of had to put that in the six, but wonder. Wonder, not wander, not just like roam around, wonder. Tell me how wonder has impacted your walk as a husband and as a dad.
Yeah. Fatherhood is a gift. And if my girls know it, they hear it, they see it, they feel it. This statement, my dad loves being my dad. He
Mhm.
loves it. It's his second favorite role in all of the world. My favorite role is being husband awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite role is loving their mom. But my favorite, like, I love it. I love it. I love it that I get to be their dad. What it's doing is it's instilling some of that identity. It really is. It's
Yeah.
actually
Sure.
the delight of the Father. The delight of the
That's
Father
right.
is so huge. And God, when He created the world, each day of creation, He stepped back and He said this word, Tov, T-O-V. And basically,
Yeah.
it's this Hebrew word that's like awe, wonder, amazement at what He created. And He put that into creation. He put His wonder in a multiplying way into all of creation. If you really observe, there's so much of creation that multiplies forward. So as the dad, the more that we can bring delight and wonder to our kids and show them and tell them and have our eyes that shine and bring our energy and our honor, like we're honored, like this is a role that I treasure. Like it's not just again with words and just like I'm a positive guy. So it's not that at all. It's actually a deep responsibility as dads to delight in our children. It's not just to all play, 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 play. It's actually more about spoken words. It's about presence. It's about I'm solid. I'm not like all over the place with reactive. I'm like carrying a level of the multiplying wonder of God. And I'm doing that with my eyes, my words, my presence, and it multiplies forward. So these deposits of a father's love and affection and delight, a father treasuring his kids, like this will, when
Mhm.
they look at what pays dividends, what actually
Mm.
grows with a
Yeah.
compounding interest, this will in their lives affect how they show up in all the different places where they're gonna as dads in the future, as moms in the future. And so wonder is the how. We call it the how of being
Mm.
dad awesome. It's we bring wonder because the oldest God in the universe assigned us this role.
Yeah.
So like
Wow.
we actually, there's a lot of wonder in that statement.
Wow. That's amazing. Lawson.
Yeah, so tie freedom together for me with leadership, and here's where I think I have struggled, and I think, I've talked to a lot of other dudes who are like, they don't feel like they are equipped because of something that's happened in their past to go lead.
Yeah.
Or even within their family, they're like, "Man,
Yeah.
I've screwed things up enough that maybe I just need to pull back some." But that freedom that we can find and that you describe, I love the way you take it apart, can lead us to lead. Is that do you go with that? Does that make sense?
Yep, because when there's anything hidden, when there's any area that we actually are carrying, it could be something someone did to us, our dad, something that happened upstream, or something that we've just like, it's an area of our life that we hope others don't know about. Okay. Many,
Mm.
many dads have some area like that. And what we do is we disqualify ourselves to
Yeah,
taking
right, 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 right. Yep,
any initiative in the area of fatherhood, pursuing
Yeah.
our wife,
yep.
pursuing rallying other dads, any like force of bringing more of heaven here on earth, we disqualify ourselves. We're like, I can't be me because I'm hiding this area. And one, God doesn't want you, like, he wants to set you free. But often it's in process of stepping into more
Mm.
leadership. It's not always a 1-2. It's often in the journey. Jesus, some of his healing miracles is like, go show yourself to the priest in the temple. And as they went, they were healed. So as soon as we start seeing with vision, more than just being free from sin, more than just untanglement, Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 stuff of just being untangled from. No, we actually have a much bigger vision. Dads,
Mm.
you have a bigger vision than just getting untangled. Your vision is you are
Yes.
going to be a part of a movement, a multi-generational family of righteousness. If the vision is way bigger, that actually brings us the courage to get things out of darkness and into the light. And it's
Wow.
Man.
huge. It's
Man.
huge. And then secondly, to take the leadership side just a little bit further, you are designed by God in heaven to be a builder of bridges. And
Yeah.
and many, many dads come to the edge of a chasm and they'll say, well, I guess I'll have to climb down, get across the rushing river, climb back up and keep going. They're only thinking about themselves. Many of us dads operate, we're only thinking about ourselves. We get to the edge of
Mm.
that cliff. I'm only thinking about myself. As soon as dads start thinking like builders of, I'm going to, because of God in heaven and his strength, because of freedom and forgiveness that he's given me, I'm going to build a rope bridge across this chasm. I'm going to take leadership and build something that goes beyond myself. And this is where every dad that starts thinking like a builder and thinking like a leader can build rope bridge by just inviting a few other dads in. Invite a few other dads to grow with them. And now
Mhm.
they've built a rope bridge that is impacting the families of these other dads. And it goes way beyond every pioneer that built a rope bridge. They'll never know the names of all the people that used
Right,
that bridge,
right.
came later and
Right.
used that bridge. So,
Right.
so
Dude.
I want to cheer for
So
you
good.
guys. Build bridges with courageous, seeing a counselor, bringing things to the light, but build bridges by inviting other dads into your journey. Don't do it.
Mm.
Don't try to do it alone. And lastly, the accountability loop to your kids. As soon as your kids see you as a dad who meets at your campfire pit with a few other dads once a week, couple times a year, you pull guys together and you grow. You are a leader in the area of fatherhood. As soon as you put that hat on and your kids know, oh, dad does this thing. He gets up early and meets some other dads for coffee and he's the leader of that group.
Right on.
You have built yourself a mechanism of ongoing humility, teachability. Your kids will keep you accountable to be dad awesome, to be the dad who keeps growing because you're a leader helping other dads. Of course, you're going to keep growing on the home front. So as soon as we have bigger vision for other dads, we actually become the dad that without even trying keeps growing on the home
Mm.
front.
Man, Jeff, you remind me of the verse in Hebrews that says, for the joy set before Christ, he
Mhm.
endured the cross. He had a bigger vision than just, well, I got to go die. That wasn't the vision. The vision that wasn't the joy set before him, that he just was going to go die. It was that he was going to redeem mankind, that the rope bridge of all bridges, right? And that was the vision. And his vision was so big, he could endure anything with joy along the way. I want to do two things. I want to give you kind of the last word, and there's no rush. Take as much time as you like. Before we move on, though, I want to show on the camera Dad Awesome, the book, forward by Jeff's friend Mark Batterson, an amazing author in his own right, of course. Your edition is going to look a little different than mine because I got the Inner Circle edition. So if you don't get an Inner Circle edition, sorry about your luck, man. I got a sick looking Inner Circle edition. Thank you for that, Jeff. What a gift. This is a treasure. One thing I want to remind the dad who's looking and watching and listening today, this is about the easiest book to read I've ever read. I happen to have read most of this at the same time I was trying to read Confessions by Augustine. Now, I don't even understand 85% of what he's talking about. Like, I don't even get it. I need like Confessions for Children by Augustine with a crayon drawing because I can't understand it. I understand this book. And because you made the chapters really short and they're all story-based, they're compelling and interesting and fun and poignant and brief. I love the book, man. Tons of QR codes, resources. Dad, go get Dad Awesome right now by Jeff Zaugg. So, Jeff, I want to end, and this may take a minute or 10, you take your time on this, but something you said that I know because of the surveys we've done and the work we've done the last 15 years, a lot of dads are still stuck about 20 minutes ago in this show. And here's where they're stuck. Their dad had a clipboard too. Their dad had a clipboard. And it was not just a clipboard of their basketball stats. It was a clipboard of a whole lot of other stuff. And they still are walking around. They're 30, they're 35, they're 50. Their dad may have even passed away. And they still think that God is walking around with a clipboard and that every day is judgment day over and over again. And they're being reevaluated and reevaluated. And they're always wondering, am I going to make the team tomorrow? And I just know it's true because so many dads have told me that myself.
That's so heavy. That's so heavy.
And as thousands of surveys and thousands of responses to our emails, I want you to talk to that dad. There is a dad listening right now. Frankly, there might be 5,000 of them listening right now who still believe they are under the watchful gaze of a heavenly father who's walking around with a clipboard and a red pen, and they can never measure up. I know that's true. I know it's true. Talk to that dad for a minute, man. Tell him the truth.
Yeah. Thank you for this invitation to connect with this dad.
And take your time.
I had a mentor encourage me to write my dad a letter. This was a year after he passed away. And the letter on one side is, Dad, thank you for, and I just put a bunch of bullet points, things that I'm thankful for. And I have a dad that I had a lot of things come to mind on the thankful for side. And I want to acknowledge that some of you guys have almost nothing, or some of you nothing, because your dad was not present at all. Maybe in that case, you'd write some dad type figures, some things that God sent you as a rescue. But I put on one side the things I'm thankful for. The other side is, Dad, these things hurt. These were areas of pain, areas of disappointment, areas of that just brought some of that shrapnel into my life. And I wrote that side as well. And this letter, you have to pray into if this letter is something to talk through with your dad, if you still have if you're still in contact with your dad. But for me, this letter was a exercise of forgiveness and prayer. And I put this letter on a large rock, a rock the size of my laptop computer. And I Sharpied the words from each of these bullet points on one side of the rock.
Did not.
And the words.
Did you really?
I put them on a rock.
I love this story.
And I carried this rock to the edge of the lake that I grew up on in northern Wisconsin. And I swam. I snuck away from the family. They didn't know I was out for this swim. I didn't have a lifeguard watching me. And I swam a couple 100 yards out to the middle of the lake. And I'm struggling. I am swimming and I'm struggling. And before I finish the story, dads, like men, many of us wake up every morning treading water with a heavy weight. And I got to physically feel the weight of a heavy rock as I swam, kind of one arm, two legs kicking, trying to stay afloat. And I'm struggling and I'm praying as I swam. And this is not God's heart. God's heart as a loving father is to take that entire weight and to bring freedom and lightness. His burden is not heavy. He's not the God who's adding weight. He's actually it's such a gift, the love that he brings to us. But I needed to swim and pray a prayer of release and forgiveness. And I just prayed as I opened my eyes, this clear northern Wisconsin lake. I watched the rock as I prayed, God, thank you for my dad. I forgive my dad. God, I forgive him. And I forgive myself for areas that I just hung on to here. I'm carrying weight and God, I release to you. Take the weight. I am your loved son. Give me freedom. Fill me with your love. Bring lightness. Bring strength. Thank you for your inheritance. My dad used to joke about taking away my inheritance, but those jokes hurt. Those jokes hurt.
Wow.
And I have inheritance. God in heaven, all that he has is mine. And I swam back to shore. So I swim a lot. I love the water. I swam. I've never felt the lightness of that swim again since that day. Like the lightness of swimming after releasing that rock. And
Bro,
that's
that is
God's
cool.
heart. That is God's heart for you guys, is swimming with lightness. Let go of the weight. Trust him. Receive this invitation. And I like there's so many layers to this journey that require a local, a brother, another dad, a friend, a pastor, a counselor. Like this journey of letting go of the weight, it requires someone else to be a part of that journey with you. But God is pursuing, he's running to you. So it's receive his love. And maybe as the last step to this is there's a waterfall of God's love just waiting for you to take a hike. And it never runs out. And the effect, if you have the courage to go get underneath the waterfall of his love and receive versus earn, you will be the dad who is so soaking wet that every hug to every child is, without even trying, they're learning about the love of the Father in heaven. And it is discipleship of your kids, the lightness of that journey and the joy of that journey when you're fully immersed in God's love. It just comes naturally. So anyone who's feeling like, man, I struggle here and I struggle here, it's a twofer. Like you will get both. You'll get both the love and the pass on of love.
Hey, I want to remind the dad listening that you've been hearing a conversation with me and Lawson and our good friend, Jeff Zaugg at Dad Awesome. Go to dadawesome.org to learn more about what Jeff is up to. And right now, when you're done with this podcast interview, go to Amazon and order a copy of the book, Dad Awesome. I want to tell you what the subtitle is. You're going to love it. Dad Discoveries to Activate Awesomeness. Foreword by Mark Batterson. Go get the book. Dad Awesome today by Jeff Zaugg. Jeff, brother, thank you for investing, not just in the dad listening to the show, because Lawson and I get free wisdom every time we interview somebody. And man, you brought it today. Thanks so much for being a part of the show
thanks,
again.
Jeff.
I've loved this conversation. I'm cheering you guys on, praying for you guys as well.
And Dad, don't forget, you're going to do some of the things that Jeff told you to do today, because you are not a father on accident. So go be a father on purpose.